And while relations between protesters and law enforcement seems fraught, one Minnesota National Guardsman says he's trying to spread a message of unity. On Monday, during a protest at the state capitol, Lieutenant Colonel Sam Andrews told demonstrators he respects their right to protest. Take a look.
I'm sorry for the loss of George Floyd. All right, my heart hurts as a human being. Last night when I talked to the group out here who peacefully assembled, they peacefully assembled here to have their voice heard. And what we're asking tonight is for the same thing. One of the things that the crowd asked for last night was to have the officers and the Army removed, right? Yeah. So we're off. So for the men and women and children that came out last night to have their voices heard, we heard it. We heard it, and we're going to stay back behind, invisible, so that you can't see us. Is that okay? Yeah.
And Lieutenant Colonel Andrews joins us now. Lieutenant, thank you for being here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for inviting me on the show to continue the conversation.
It's our pleasure. So I heard you telling those protesters that you wanted to fade into the background. You wanted to become invisible to them. Why do you think it's important for law enforcement to do that right now?
Ma'am, for not just law enforcement, but really for the Minnesota Guard, we're in a period of transition. So we certainly have started to make better choices about how we represent ourselves in the community in terms of lowering our physical presence in the community, as well as lowering the type of equipment that we're wearing in the community. And what that allows us to do is transition really our roles and responsibilities back to local law enforcement.
And you've been out there witnessing these protests. What has it been like for you? What interactions stick out to you?
Yes, ma'am. So, I had some really pretty tense interactions on the 30th of May. I took my helmet and body armor off to engage the crowd, to show them that I wasn't afraid that they were going to hurt me, even though that there were hundreds of guardsmen and state patrolmen in the area, and then listened and conversed and shook hands and asked people to respect the property of the Capitol and respect us and respect one another, and they did. And we listened the next day when the peaceful demonstration came back. They asked to have their voices heard, and we removed our presence from the front of the Capitol.
There's so much debate now surrounding exactly what you're talking about, how law enforcement should be handling these situations. And one of the things you mentioned was the equipment you were wearing. One of the big issues at stake is whether or not officers should be in riot gear, whether that incites even more tension. I wonder from you, what's your advice to fellow law enforcement officials on the front lines right now?
Ma'am, it really depends on the crowd, and it really depends on the individuals that interact with the crowd. The ability to reach across the line and shake hands and introduce yourself starts that conversation. It's really, it's impossible to do the next thing before you introduce yourself. I found that tremendously successful. Just literally take your glove off and your helmet off and stick your hand out and introduce yourself. That really speaks volumes about restraint and legitimacy and de-escalation. When you know someone's name, when you introduce yourself, you can actually start the conversation. You can start to listen and hope that you're able to hear what the person standing in front of you has to say.
That's great advice. Well, thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Andrews, for your time and for your work. We wish you luck in keeping the community and those protesters safe. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.